You have ghosts, you have everything. If you have ghosts, you have everything. You can say anything you want, you can do anything you want. If you have ghosts, and you have everything. I'll go running.
Tonight, we reach the end of a long, dark highway. When you look back at where a story starts versus where it ends, you realize to move forward, you have to leave pieces of yourself behind in the rear view.
Won't give 2 ears to what you say.
First, True Detective Season 3, the supporting cast, they aren't just the backdrop of the Ozarks. They deliver masterclasses in quiet devastation.
I'll go running, let my head down.
Tonight, we look at the performances that truly anchor the gravity of the Purcell tragedy.
You say now.
Then, in our Innocent Souls segment, we examine a real-life Miami disappearance that echoes that same dark path. In 1974, 17-year-old Amy Billig stepped out on a Coconut Grove afternoon and vanished into thin air, leaving behind a cold trace that haunted a community for decades. We're also descending back down the spiral into Season 1, breaking down why Rust and Marty were the only two who could close Carcosa, and how that isolating sacrifice mirrors the closure we're seeking tonight.
Tell you everything. I'll give away every part.
Now finally, as the dust settles and the sunset fades, we're taking a moment to reflect on our last season and what we have planned on the horizon for the upcoming Season 3 of this podcast. If you've been walking this path with us, make sure you're subscribed on all streaming platforms and on Apple Podcasts. If you look at the top right of your screen, hit that plus sign to follow the feed. This is Sunset in the Rearview.
Tell me a story. In this century and moment of mania, tell me a story. Make it a story of great distances and starlight. The name of the story will be Time, but you must not pronounce its name. Tell me a story of deep delight.
There's a washed up line I'm sick of. Under my skin I'm a prison. Hey baby, you want some good advice? Just keep on dancing if you want to survive. 'Cause everything's too heavy, too much to think about. Outside is the channel that I'm switching off.
As much as Ali and Dorff get well-deserved recognition for their powerhouse lead performances in Season 3, they didn't build that world alone. Season 3 of True Detective works because the writing is phenomenal, and the Ozarks setting cutting through the heart of the 1980s Clinton-era Arkansas, providing the perfect backdrop for the classic Southern noir. But a landscape is only as haunted as the people living in it. Just like we saw in the first season of True Detective, the supporting cast here completely steals every single scene they are in. They don't just fill space, they deliver performances of a lifetime. And it's no surprise that many of them went on to have incredibly successful careers afterwards, mirroring the trajectory of the Season 1 alumni. First up, you have Amelia Reardon, played brilliantly by Carmen Ejogo. Amelia isn't just a detective's wife, she's the literal conscience of the entire season. She's an educator and a writer tracking the same ghost Wayne is, but she's doing it through prose.
What will become of you and me? Besides the photo and the memory. This is the school in which we learn That time is the fire in which we burn. What is the self amidst this blaze? What am I now that I was then, which I shall suffer and act again? The children shouting are bright as they run. This is the school in which they learn. What am I now that I was then? May memory restore again and again the smallest color of the smallest day. Time is the school in which we learn. Time is the fire in which we burn.
Jogo plays her with this fiercely intelligent, deeply observant grace. She captures the precise tragedy of a woman trying to love a man whose mind is a shifting puzzle of shadows and disappearing memories.
And speaking of raw, unfiltered tragedy, you have Scoot McNairy as Tom Purcell. My God, does McNairy deliver a masterclass in broken masculinity. Tom is a man hollowed out by grief, guilt, and a fractured home life, operating in an era that gives him absolutely no words to process it. Every time McNairy is on screen, you can practically feel the steering wheel vibrating under his hands as he tries to hold his shattering world together. It is a devastatingly human performance.
What's your fucking problem? My dick showing?
Hey, Tom. You sure you want to be back at work today?
I've been working full time since I was 14 years old. You want me to sit at home with this shit in my head now? How long are you motherfuckers gonna stare at me? Somebody got something to say about me? My family? Oh, somebody know something about it?
Tom? Hi. We didn't plan on having you back this soon.
Well, I gotta earn a living.
Well, the thing is, we put you on leave.
Well, I didn't ask for that, okay? Now I gotta work. You tell me I can't work?
Look, with everything that's happening, it's a little disruptive. People have other things in their mind. These machines, that's how accidents happen. You know that, Tom.
I'm a guy nobody wants to be, huh? I'm a fucking joke, right?
You shouldn't look at it like that. But you ain't coming back to work right now, Tom.
Fuck everything anyway. Yeah, fuck each of you. I quit.
And then there's Brett Woodard, played by Michael Greyeyes. Woodard is arguably the emotional crucible of the entire early timeline. Greyeyes brings this quiet, dignified, yet deeply wounded veteran energy to the role.
Came back from overseas, 72. Did some carpentry. Construction dropped off. Things didn't work out. My marriage, stuff. I was gone too long. About 4 years ago, she left me. Took the kids.
I was motor pool. My man here was LERP, 2 tours. Detective Hayes. They call him Purple Haze over there.
Miss your family.
Yeah. I miss being someone that way. A way I could have a family. You were recon?
75th Infantry. Sergeant.
You must be pretty insane, volunteering for that.
I didn't think about it much, to tell you the truth.
I ain't one of them burnouts. You know, comes back, busting guys up, getting high. And I ain't a bum. I keep a house. I pay my way.
Hey, I ain't judging, man. Look, I punch in and out. I put on a suit in the morning. And being honest, I don't have much of a life.
So why? Why punch in? Why the suit? Why?
I don't ask myself questions like that.
Could be I'm too chicken shit, Mr. Woodard.
It ain't my world. Less than yours, even. But I did pretty good at following orders. Now, you ever do this? I miss when don't get killed was the only thing on my to-do list.
It's hard to unplug from that. It's been a year coming down.
He's a man experiencing the profound isolation of a Native American living in a community that's looking for a scapegoat. The absolute explosion of tension surrounding his character doesn't just drive the plot. It exposes the raw, violent underbelly of the town itself.
You think Listen, I got 2 kids, okay?
Where are they?
I don't know. She didn't tell me. And I haven't gone looking. If I'd never left, I think it'd have been fine. But to go and come back, I just couldn't put myself back in that old story. That's all. And I couldn't leave it either, you know? You ever been someplace you couldn't leave? And you couldn't stay? Both at the same time.
To understand that underbelly, you have to look at the fringe players who exploit it. Take Michael Graziadei as Dan O'Brien. He's the quintessential low-level Southern noir catalyst. Sleazy, desperate, and always looking for an angle. He plays Dan O'Brien with this perfect, nervous energy of a guy who knows he's out of his depth but keeps digging his own grave anyway. He's the grimy connective tissue between the family tragedy and the higher-up conspiracies.
You ever see anybody talking to the kids? Any adults you didn't recognize?
Nah, I can't say I recall anything like that. Look, them kids, they kept to themselves a lot, you know? The house is a pretty tense place. I mean, you can probably tell Lucy and Tom, they aren't real happy. For any of this.
Will and Julie? They play outside the house a lot?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think they like being around there. You know, Mom and Dad angry all the time.
Were you pretty close to Will and Julie?
I don't know. We got along. I played with them a couple times. They didn't see me much before I stayed here. Like, they were good kids.
What do you think of Tom?
He's an all right guy. I mean, I feel sorry for him. I felt for him even before all this. I mean, in my opinion, Lucy always needed like a strong male.
Staying in town long?
No, I gotta get back to work.
Family could probably use you around.
I can't get the time off. It's not like there's a lot I can do for him.
In the night of, your neighbor can confirm you were at home.
I don't know if they can or not. But you could check with the Starlight Bar in Springfield. I had a couple there after work, and then I went home and watched Chips. You want to search my place?
Would that be okay?
Sure. But maybe you should be out there trying to find my niece. I'm gonna get back to Lucy.
And when you talk about the higher-up forces, you have to talk about the institutional walls Wayne and Roland kept running into. Brent Cullen as D.A. Gerald Kent, and Josh Hopkins as Jim Dopkins. Cullen plays Kent with that slick, unyielding political ambition, the embodiment of a system that cares indefinitely more about a closed case and an easy narrative for the voters than an actual messy truth.
And Hopkins pairs perfectly as Dobkins, the aggressive investigator who acts as the system's enforcement arm. Together they represent the political machinery of the Clinton-era South. They are the bureaucratic fog that forces our lead detective to stay in the dark for decades, making the investigation run parallel to the creeping decay of Wayne's own mind.
And that is the genius of Season 3. Allie and Dorf give us the heartbeat, but the supporting ensemble give us the gravity. They ensure that the timeline from the 80s to the 2010s feel populated by real suffering, striving human beings. They remind us that a true Southern noir, the crime isn't just an isolated act, it's a tragedy that reshapes an entire community.
We hit a
Welcome back to Voice of the Innocent Souls. During this weekly special segment, we don't just look at case files to study the cold mechanics of a crime, we look at them to remember the people left behind in the wake of absolute darkness. If you know Miami today, you know glass towers, high-end valet lines, and endless noise. But if you rewind to Saturday, March 16th, 1974, Coconut Grove was a completely different world. It was a leafy enclave of artists, beatnik remnants, and kids living on sunshine and naive trust. 17-year-old Amy Billig fit right into that tapestry. Creative, outgoing, long dark hair, wide eyes. And that afternoon, Amy decided to hitchhike a short stretch along the main highway to meet her father for lunch at his art gallery. Now, 1974 in the Grove, hitchhiking wasn't viewed as a gamble, it was a local transit. She stepped out into the midday humidity and just vanished into thin air.
That's the exact illusion of South Florida back then. People think of the coast as this open paradise, but from a law enforcement perspective, 1974 Miami was a procedural Wild West. Places where the rules are rarely enforced attract people who don't follow rules. Coconut Grove housed these dense, canopy roads, secluded dead ends, and heavy foliage right up to the pavement. Main highway felt safe, but geographically, it sat right on the edge of major escape arteries like US 1 and South Dixie Highway. One moment a teenager is walking past banyan trees, the next she steps into a vehicular blind spot, enters a car, and within 4 minutes is lost in interstate traffic before a missing persons report is even typed up. And decades later, I worked cases in the same neighborhood through the 90s and 2000s of my career.
That blind spot became a 50-year maze. Almost immediately, the rumor mill took over. Amy's camera and hairbrush were found near the roadside, but no physical trace of Amy herself. Within days, local tips started pointing toward the outlaw motorcycle gangs that frequented the area at the time, specifically a group known as the Pagans. Our narrative began to build that Amy had been abducted, trafficked through highway networks, or taken out of the state entirely.
The Pagans were founded in Maryland back in the late 50s, but they built something distinct from clubs like the Hells Angels. The Pagans traditionally claimed the entire East Coast, wearing a single cut that spanned from New York straight down to South Florida and the Keys. The Pagans are a massive criminal enterprise anchored in major urban hubs like Miami, Philly, and Baltimore. Historically, the Pagans built their empire on heavy weaponry, extortion, and above all else, methamphetamine. Federal indictments down here in Florida repeatedly highlight pagan chapters operating large-scale meth distribution pipelines. To bring this case into perspective, in 1974, you didn't have cell phone tower pings, cameras on every street corner, or automated license plate readers. From an investigation stance, that's a nightmare scenario of mid-70s missing person cases. More importantly, cross-agency coordination was virtually non-existent. For example, a police department in Miami wasn't automatically sharing telephone records with a county sheriff's office in Georgia or North Carolina unless someone physically made a phone call.
But the mystery of her disappearance wasn't the only nightmare here. What happened to Amy's mother, Susan, in the decades that followed is one of the most cruel, psychologically twisted sagas in Florida legal history. Shortly after Amy vanished, Susan started receiving phone calls, a male voice on the line claiming he had Amy, claiming she was alive, claiming held in captivity, being moved between interstate prostitution ranks. Susan didn't break. She spent her life savings, hired private investigators, personally walked into rough biker clubhouses asking questions, and kept answering those phone calls for 20 years. 20 years of psychological torment until federal agents finally set a wiretap and traced the line in 1998.
And the investigative breakdown of that reveal is utterly devastating. The caller wasn't a kidnapper. He wasn't a biker. He was a local man, a former U.S. Customs officer named Henry Johnson Blair. Blair had zero connection to Amy's original disappearance. He used his knowledge of law enforcement jargon and victim psychology to exploit a mother's desperation, placing over 5,000 harassing calls across 2 decades.
Think about that weight. Susan Billig spent 2 decades believing those phone calls were her daughter's only lifeline, only to find out it was a phantom on the line taking pleasure in her grief. Susan Billig passed away in 2005 at the age of 80. She died without ever getting to bring her daughter home, and she never stopped searching, not for a single day. Amy Billig's case remains an active cold file with the City of Miami Police Department. Her name still hangs over Coconut Grove like a quiet shadow. Amy Billig was 17 years old. She wasn't just a cold case file, she was an innocent soul lost to the dark side of paradise.
From a procedural standpoint, cold cases only stay dead when people stop asking questions. Forensic technology evolves, old witnesses clear their conscience, and archives get re-examined. As long as her name stays active in the public record, this case isn't over. Look at the end of that 17-year odyssey into the spiral. You look at Carcosa, and a lot of people analyze the horror of that place. The brick, the bones, the yellow cloth.
I keep kicking at the curb with my worn out shoe.
But the real narrative architecture of Season 1 relies entirely on a terrifying psychological reality. Only Rust and Marty had what it took to catch Earl Childress and Carcosa.
I don't want to be a proud man, just want to be a man.
Think about it. Any other cops, even the good ones, they arrive at that property, they see that sprawling death trap, and they do what they're trained to do. They wait for backup. They establish a perimeter, and while the local PD organizes, Earl Childress could have slipped into the salt marshes and vanished forever. It required a very specific broken alchemy to breach Carcosa. When you map out how this case was actually solved, it didn't happen in your standard police procedural fashion. It required 4 distinct quadrants of obsession, trauma, fearlessness, and partnership coming together at the exact right moment to form the perfect jagged key. The first quadrant is the baseline, Rust's absolute refusal to let go. This isn't just standard investigative persistence, it's clinical obsession. Rust held on to a single case for nearly 2 decades. Any sane investigator accepts the dead ends, yields to the passage of time, and lets the file gather dust in the archives. But Rust used the case as an anchor to reality. Without the box of files in his storage unit, he doesn't exist. This quadrant is pure, unfiltered focus, a dark discipline that kept the embers of this investigation burning long after the state declared the case closed. The second quadrant is the intellectual breakthrough when they realized how far out of their depth they truly are. At the beginning of their story, they were tracking a monster. At the end, the jigsaw pieces fell into place perfectly, revealing a sprawling generational tapestry of corruption, power, and ritual abuse woven into the very fabric of the coast. To solve the case, they had to stop looking for a conventional suspect and start understanding the ecosystem of darkness. They had to map out a shadow network that the official system was actively trying to protect.
Transference of fear and self-loathing to an authoritarian vessel. It's catharsis. He absorbs their dread with his narrative. Because of this, he's effective in proportion to the amount of certainty he can project. Certain linguistic anthropologists think that religion is a language virus that rewrites pathways in the brain, dulls critical thinking.
See, the preacher, he encourages your capacity for illusion, and he tells you it's a fucking virtue. Well, there's a buck to be had, you know. There's such a desperate sense of entitlement in it. Surely this is all for me.
I'm so fucking important, right? Fuck you.
Then comes the third quadrant, and it's the most volatile. Rust's complete lack of self-preservation. It requires a man who was suicidal enough to walk into a black maze without a second thought. He had already accepted his own death years prior. When you have nothing left to lose, a physical death trap loses its leverage over you. Rust's perspective wasn't just a philosophical stance anymore. It became his tactical advantage.
You know, any agency or department needed a deep undercover narco. They got me. And there was no fucking expiration date, baby.
And they kept you out there for 4 years.
In February of 93, I killed 3 cartel men in the port of Houston. I took 3 25s in the side and ended up at North Shore Psychiatric Hospital in Lubbock, Texas. Which is kind of funny in its own right. Psych ward being in Lubbock, Texas. You ever been there? They offered me psych pension. Jackpot, right? And I said no. I said, put me on homicide somewhere. By then, I was owed quite a few favors, and Louisiana is what they had.
But Rust's momentum only gets him into the maze. It doesn't get him out. That brings us to the final, crucial quadrant. Marty Hart finally completely believing in Rust and becoming a man of action. Not just about the job, not about his ego, but about Rust. Marty is a tether to the real world. Marty had overcome his own absolute terror, the raw human instinct telling him to stay outside and wait for backup, and instead plunge into the dark purely to save his own partner. Marty's willingness to cross that threshold is the only reason Earl Childress has stopped.
I wanna hunt like David. I wanna kill me a giant man. I wanna slay my demons, but I got lots of them. I wanna hunt like David. I wanna kill me a giant man. I wanna slay my demons, but I got lots of them. I've got lots of them. I've got lots of
I am not your kind. A deathless life, and we've come undone. So untied inside.
When we first launched Innocent Souls in the Hands of the Old King, it was created out of a kind of necessity. After walking away from a 25-year career in criminology and investigative work back in January, I really needed a place to channel everything I've carried with me over the last 2.5 decades. As our journey progressed and Season 2 premiered this past May, our goal was to build a bridge between cinematic fiction and cold, hard reality. True Detective provided the atmospheric canvas, the weight of the obsession, the slow burn of time, and the devastating impact of unresolved cases. But through our Innocent Soul segment, we grounded that fiction into the real world and shined a light into the shadow of unresolved cases in hopes of justice. For me personally, this season was about perspective. Moving from the field to the microphone allowed me to analyze crime not through case files and reports, but through narrative, music, and thematic depth. Reaching over 2,500 plays and connecting with thousands of listeners across Threads, Instagram, and Reddit proved that people don't just want sensationalized crime, they want genuine reflections, atmospheric storytelling, and respect for the victims at the center of these tragedies. Looking in the rearview mirror as Season 2 comes to a close, this project has been a space where investigative experience meets creative expression. I've been able to leave pieces of my heavy past behind while building something meaningful alongside M.R. Floyd, our collaborators, and this incredible community. Our journey doesn't end with sunset in the rearview. It's just setting the baseline for where we plan to go next as we step onto the road for Season 3. As so many have requested, we will continue to use Rust and Marty and the characters of the first 3 seasons of True Detective into our perspective for future episodes. In addition, there's a real-life case that we plan to provide an in-depth analysis next season from my personal experience that mirrors Carcosa and the Yellow King. Some stories need to be told, regardless of what people or pathways that we need to cross to reveal the truth to break the cycle. We want to extend a sincere thank you to every single one of you who has taken this journey with us this season. As we close this chapter and step back to prepare for the next, know that this community is what keeps this fire burning bright.
To everyone who has listened, shared a theory, or sat with us in the quiet of these stories, we sincerely thank you. Your engagement has been the heartbeat of this project. Huge shout out to the True Detective subreddit and Threads communities for the deep dives.
I'm Army Knight 17 with Delmar Floyd. This has been Innocent Souls in the Hands of the Yellow King. Until next season, stay tuned, stay safe, and remember, the light is still winning.